This is a make or break year for Coach Fisher and the Aggies.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. I hope everybody had an outstanding weekend. There was a lot of fun for the Aggies when it comes to the good old game of baseball. We're going to get to that in segment 3 today. But first, there's kind of been a subject that I've been tiptoeing around the handful of weeks I've been doing this podcast, and it's time that we talk about it. We're going to talk about Texas A&M and Coach Fisher and why this year is so pivotal. I've hinted at it before. I've said some things about it. I've gotten lots of comments about it, a lot of which I agree with. And so it's time to really talk about what the deal is here. Coach Fisher was brought to College Station to compete for championships. Of course, he won a national championship at Florida State. He's a guy that's been there. He's a guy that knows how to coach teams and win championships, and he's done it at the Power 5 level, of course, during his time at Florida State. So it hasn't been great while he's been in College Station. Now, you look at a lot, his win-loss column. Aside from last year, it's all been fine. 8 wins. The COVID year, the Aggies were 9-1. A lot of 7, 8-win seasons. And then, of course, the awfulness that was last year. But, when you bring in a big-name coach like Jimbo Fisher, you are bringing him in to win football games and compete for SEC championships and should be competing for national championships. And the Aggies really haven't been in that spot. And that kind of raises the question. I feel like coaches often fall into that trap of, well, I win 8 games every year. The reality is with the recruiting classes that Coach Fisher's bringing in, you can't win. You can't be satisfied with 7 or 8 wins. It's, as fans, we get tired of it. Winning football games is fun, but at some point, winning 8 games is like, yay, we beat Mississippi State. Hooray, we beat South Carolina. At the end of the day, the Aggies got to start taking down some of these big dogs. And I know they beat LSU last year, and, they've beaten some of the better teams in college football, but you have to string more than one big win a year together. Like last year, not many people thought the Aggies were going to knock off LSU, and they were able to get that done. So to me, what I want to kind of do is break down why this is a make or break year and kind of break it down from a recruiting standpoint. And then flat out, let's talk about the number. What is the number Coach Fisher has to get to? The hot seat talks have been around forever. They've not forever. Last year really sparked them. And so it leads you to wonder, it's like, what is that number this year? I know Aggie fans are fed up. I see you all every day. I see some people in the comments saying, somebody commented something which I really didn't in any way disagree with, but something along the lines of like 8 wins shouldn't keep, Coach Fisher around. And I agree with you, whoever said that. And I appreciate the comment. It just 8 wins. It sounds repetitive, but 8 wins is not why Texas A&M hired Jimbo Fisher. Like I said, I'm going to say it one more time. They hired him to compete for national championships and SEC championships, and he has not put the Aggies in a position to do that on the field. He's put them in a position to do that on the recruiting trail. The recruiting has been outstanding. It's just been the production on the field. So I think things like bringing in Bobby Petrino, I think that's a big deal. I have been a big supporter of that move, assuming Coach Fisher does, let Coach Petrino do his thing and run the offense and have it be his thing. I think the Aggies could have a good year this year, but I think it's safe to say I don't want to throw out there, if he loses this many games, he's going to get fired, because I just, you don't know how those decisions broke down. But if they go 5-7, I think Coach Fisher's getting fired. I don't think there's any way around it. I think 6 wins, you could still have that argument, but I think if you get to that 7 and 8 wins, and listen, if you all, I'm going to get some comments saying if he wins, if the Aggies win 7 games this year, Coach Fisher needs to be gone. I don't really disagree with you. in essence. And it's not because, like, you know, if you're at a school, I'm going to throw some shade on some fellow SEC schools, so I hope there's no hate out there, but like a Kentucky, okay? If you're at Kentucky, now they've been better of late, but like it was back in the day. I have a couple friends that are Kentucky fans, so this is kind of why I know, you know, the feeling of that fan base. I've talked about them a time or two, but you know, Kentucky, they used to be, oh, we made a bowl game, woo, you know what I mean? And it's like Texas A&M, that's not what you want. At Texas A&M, we're here to be competing every year. So that's why I say, like, some people might say, well, you know, we shouldn't fire Coach Fisher if he wins 7 games this year. 7 games isn't making this team competitive on a national level. Now, I know the college football playoff is expanding, which is going to help some teams that have a good, you know, 10-2, 9-3 seasons be able to compete for a national championship and kind of, in essence, like go on a run, like in the March Madness tournament or NCAA baseball tournament. So I think that change helps teams like Texas A&M, who's of course playing in the toughest conference in the country and has to play all these big dogs every single year. I think that helps. But to sum it up is like, I don't think Coach Fisher is going to get fired if the Aggies win 7 games this year. But it's like, at what point is 7 games just not enough? At what point do we kind of sit back and go, we need somebody to come here that can win as average as 9 wins a season or 8.6 wins a season? You know what I mean? Like an average over a career. It just, people are going to start to get fed up with 7 wins. And, you know, you can kind of fly under the radar at 7, 8 wins, but eventually people are going to say, we're tired of this. We're tired of this. It's supposed to be a climb up, and kind of like, you know, what Coach Sarkisian did with Texas. He had a rough year his first year. Last year, they had a better year. They had a better record. Slowly moving up the totem pole, moving in the right direction. Right now, Coach Fisher is moving in the wrong direction, and that's not what you want. So I think this year is going to be pivotal for him, and I think, too, for the recruiting. I've talked a bit about this. I had an episode about recruiting a week or two ago, you know, where I talked about the Aggies don't have a lot of commits right now, which I then broke down was they're about on pace, right on pace for a normal recruiting class for Texas A&M. And, you know, of course, with a lot of local kids or a lot of Texas natives coming to play for the Aggies, it's that's kind of how they are. They like to come in late, but I don't think players are going to want to come play for Jimbo Fisher if he's not winning with all this talent. So I think this year is a make or break year, and hopefully, now we're being a little negative right now, and I don't like to be negative. We're going to move on to a more positive side of things here in a minute. But I think if you're Coach Fisher, you have to have a good season. To me, I would be satisfied with 8 wins this season. The schedule is tough. It's really tough. If you all disagree, let me know that in the comments. So yeah, that's the question. Let me know in the comments, what is the number that you know, if the Aggies have this record, you want Coach Fisher gone. If the Aggies have this record, you want him to stick around. Like, let me know what that number is, because I'm curious. I think it's one of those things where everybody's going to have a bit of a different opinion. But you know, Coach Fisher, I like Coach Fisher. I'm a fan of his, but I do think, you know, he was brought here to win championships, and he's got to start moving in that direction. And hopefully that starts this year. But if it doesn't, could be a real conversation we're having in 3 or 4 months. So I want to hear what your all's number is on what that, give me like a money line on that. What's the number the Aggies need to win to keep them or to get rid of them? Let me know. I'm really curious of your thoughts on that. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about where the Aggies rank in the state of Texas. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs, because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That is $2,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. You know, right now you got your NHL, your Stanley Cup postseason stuff going on. I played hockey growing up, which is a little interesting. I've been a big hockey. I'm not as much in the NBA as NHL as I once was, but it's playoff hockey is something else. I'm telling you, I've been trying to get back into it with my pops. But NBA playoffs are going on right now. For those interested in that, the Nuggets are up 1-0 right now on the Miami Heat. Is Jimmy Butler going to come back? I don't know. But, hey, if you have a feeling either which way on any of these two things, or MLB baseball, head on over to FanDuel and, put your money where your mouth is. So there's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sports book. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Yeah, so this is a little interesting to me. I saw the graphic. I think these graphics, it's funny because I saw this graphic and then I couldn't find it again. I remembered what it said, but I couldn't find who put it out there. But basically, it was ranking the state of like Texas and where the different schools rank. So when I've read the headline of this graphic, my knee-jerk reaction is, okay, Texas A&M is going to be like right behind Texas. Maybe you could sneak TCU in there with them coming off of a playoff appearance. Texas A&M was 6th. And you see this, and I don't get it. So they were behind. A handful of other teams. They were behind Texas, SMU, TCU, Texas Tech, and UTSA. And this, to me, I don't get it. I don't know. UTSA and SMU and all these schools I know are in line to have some good seasons, and there's a lot of hope around those programs. But at the end of the day, now this argument could be coming from a little bit of SEC bias, but at the end of the day, I don't think UTSA and SMU are better teams than Texas A&M. I don't. And of course, the comments on this, it was a Twitter post with this graphic. The comments were hilarious. A lot of Aggie fans were saying, well, what in the world? There's no way. Some were using a little bit more colorful language than that, but there was a lot of people that did not agree with that graphic. And, I don't agree with it either. And I have back-to-back graphics, which kind of helped make this argument. 24/7 Sports put out their preseason top 25. Texas A&M was at number 16. So you look at that and you go, how in the world do you have, if Texas A&M is number 16 in the nation before the season starts, do you have them ranked above? I don't. Do you have these other 5 Texas schools ranked above them? It doesn't make sense to me. Now, Texas, I get. I do think Texas is in a better position right now. I like Ewers. I think he's a good quarterback. I think they've done a good job over there, as much as it pains me to say that. But I don't know how you can have some of those schools above the Aggies. Now, TCU was right on A&M's tail on this list. They were like 18 or 19. I forget exactly where they were at, but they were right on the Aggies' tail on this list. So to me, I guess the argument really here is there's a lot of people sleeping on the Aggies. It's kind of like a 50-50 debate I've seen. Being someone who's out here daily talking about Texas A&M sports and especially football, a lot of people are going to disagree with you. And as I always say, that's what makes what I do so fun. That's what makes this podcast, this platform so fun, because we're able to disagree. But I just don't know how you can sit here and say Texas A&M is the 6th best team in the state. I don't. And then, you know what? If you want to branch back to our previous argument or our previous conversation about Coach Fisher's future and all the hot seat things we've heard over these last couple of months, and if Texas A&M is the best team in Texas, then this needs to be a real conversation, because Coach Fisher was not brought here to be the 6th best team in the state. Obviously, Texas is a big state, but still, with a lot of Division I programs, but still, that was not what Coach Fisher was brought here to do. But my takeaway from all this is I think there's going to be a chip on the Aggie shoulder, and I think a chip on your shoulder is something, whether it's on the football field or in the workplace or on the pickleball court or on the golf course. Whatever it is, if you have a chip on your shoulder, it's easy to be motivated to work hard and to outwork other people and to put, and to help you be successful. And I think lists like these, hey, you never know, maybe Connor Wegman saw this list, maybe Connor Wegman saw that and said, 6th in the state, what the heck? And said, we're not going to let this fly. So I think this is a really big opportunity for the Aggies to go and prove people wrong. And, I talked about the make or break, this season being make or break. It really feels like it. It feels like it for Coach Fisher. It feels like it for recruiting. It feels like it for Texas A&M being a team that is respected in college football. It's like, if you keep underperforming with the talent you have, at what point are you out of the national conversation as one of the better teams in college football? So I think the Aggies, the players, the coaching staff, the fan base needs to take things like this, like that list, and sit back and just have it be a chip on the shoulder, especially for this team and the coaching staff. You got to go do it now. You got to go win football games. You have the talent. You bring in an outstanding offensive coordinator to come and hopefully fix some of the offensive struggles the Aggies had last season. The pieces are there. Everything is there for Texas A&M this year. Everything is there for the Aggies to be successful. It just has to fall into place. And I think these players at some point just need to say, we're tired of this. We were 5-7 last year, 5-7. We're now on some list ranked as the 6th best team in our state, where, it's time to go out and win games. And I've been very clear. Those of you everydayers, like I said, that have been tuning in, you all know that I'm high on the Aggies. I think they're going to have a good season. I think the ceiling's high, and there's a lot that could go well for Texas A&M this year. But I do think that it's going to be it's going to be an interesting season. I think Texas A&M, being a person like me who covers the SEC a little bit and so knows a handful about some other SEC schools, Texas A&M just has an interesting season. It's one of the most interesting seasons to me in college, interesting teams in college football this season, because it's like there's so many different things that can happen. But like I say, the takeaway from this is 24/7 Sports has the Aggies 16th overall in the country. There you go. Some people like the Aggies this season. Then you have this list that has them as the 6th best team in the state. So it's time to go prove people wrong, and it's time to live up to the hype. And I think this is going to be the season that Coach Fisher, the coaching staff, and the players do it, and the Aggies are going to have a good year. And then let me know, any fans, any SMU fans or Texas Tech fans, TCU fans, if you all are here, everybody, let me know your all's opinions. Where does Texas A&M rank in the state? I'm curious. I know, like I said, some of these teams are in line to have some good years. I just am a big believer in SEC talent is just a different level. So let me know if people, where do the Aggies rank in the state? I'm curious to hear what you all think. The Aggies are making a run in the NCAA baseball tournament. Boom. The Aggies are red hot, smoking hot, rocking and rolling in California right now. They, of course, opened up their regional, defeating Cal State Fullerton, then knocked off Stanford. And this evening we'll be playing. So like for you, the game will be over when you all are watching tomorrow. I'm going to keep reiterating that until I feel like I've been around doing this enough that you all can kind of pick up on it. But the Aggies are playing Stanford tonight with a chance to go to a super regional. And ladies and gentlemen, there's a really good chance that super regional is going to be against Texas. Yeah, Texas is currently in the same position as the Aggies in their regional. They're actually currently playing Miami right now. Texas won their opening game. I forget who they beat. I don't remember who they beat, but they won their opening game, and then they knocked off Miami, sending Miami to the losers bracket. Miami made it out of the losers bracket back to the Longhorns. They're playing right now, and when I checked, the score was 9-3 Longhorns. Now, one thing I do not know, and you don't want don't want to be too forward, because the Aggies still do have to win their game this evening, or the if necessary game. But if the Aggies were to knock off Stanford, they just have to win one of two games. If they were to knock off Stanford, I don't know if this regional is going to be in at Texas at the Longhorns field, or if it's going to be in College Station. So let me know that. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be at Texas. I'm not sure. So let me know. I looked it up. I didn't come unprepared. I looked it up and I couldn't. I'm pretty sure it would be at Texas, but somebody fact check me on that. Let me know. But this is an exciting time for the Aggies. And I called my shot. I said, do not let the Aggies get hot. And they have gotten hot. 20 runs in the first two games of the regional, 12 against Cal State Fullerton, 8 against Stanford. a big win against a national seed in Stanford, a great baseball team. California baseball is always impressive. It's a big win. It's a big time win. Now you're one win away from the Super Regionals, likely one win away with a matchup with your arch nemesis to go to Omaha. I mean, that, and I think a lot of Aggie fans, if we would have been talking about this a month ago, people would have been like, Andrew, you're crazy. The Aggies aren't going to there's no way the Aggies are going to be going to Omaha. It's not going to happen. I think it's going to happen. I do. I've talked a lot about teams getting hot, and I just think it's a real thing. I think teams can get red hot, and I think when you get red hot, that's when you go on runs. That's when things happen, and that's what's happened with this team. The bats are hot, and it's funny, but what I like this is one thing that has been exciting me. Now, the pitching's been pretty solid. There's been a few things we're going to talk about, but the pitching's been solid so far in the regional. But the bats came to life. In the SEC tournament, the Aggies put up enough runs to win, but they didn't, blow the doors off anybody, putting up like 13, 14 runs in a game. So, of course, 12-8 in their 2 games so far in the regional, putting them in position to the regional championship where they will just have to beat Stanford one of the 2 times. That's, the bats are hot, and that's what's exciting is in the SEC tournament, like I said, it was more the pitching. You had 2 one-hitters, of the handful of games you won over there in Hoover. You had 2 one-hit ball games, outstanding pitching performances. And then in the regional, it's been more the bats than it's been the pitching. And that's exciting because that, you move to the Super Regional, you put those 2 things together, you're going to blow Texas out of the water or blow Miami out of the water, whatever ends up happening. I do think it's going to end up being Texas. Like I said, it was 9-3 when I checked a few moments ago. So, this is really exciting. And I'm a big, like I've said, I love baseball. Love Texas A&M baseball. It's a fun time. So seeing the Aggies red hot right now at the most important time of the season, it's just this team can go on a run. And I keep bringing up the Ole Miss example, and I know that obviously they had a rough year this year, but last year they were one of the last teams in the tournament. Now, Texas A&M wasn't one of the last teams in the tournament, but they weren't really like a favorite to win the NCAA to win the College World Series, and Ole Miss went and did it. So I think the Aggies have that type of run in them if the pitching and the offense continues to stay how it has been early in this regional and, how it was in Hoover for the SEC baseball tournament. The one thing that was a little frustrating, I talk about walks a lot. It might be starting to get annoying, but like I said, I pitched a lot in my lifetime, and so walks are a big thing that they get to me. Free bases get to me. First game of the regional against Cal State Fullerton, the Aggies only walked 3 hitters, which is awesome. We will take that. That's the number I said last week that the Aggies need to be at. Then game 2 against Stanford, you walk 9. 9. I don't want to get started on walks because I'm going to blow a fuse at this seat right now. So you can't walk a lot of people. You walk a lot of people. Walks turn into runs. There's no reason to get into that whole shebang. We all know that. Walks, free bases turn into runs. So the Aggies were really lucky that they were able to get out of this ball game with a win after walking that many players. But of course, the bats came, the offense came to play, and the bullpen and the pitching just did enough to get the win. So big game. I can't wait to sit down and watch this ball game tonight. I wish it was an earlier game so that I could just record and talk about whatever happens tonight for it, but it's just a late game. So we will break down whatever happens in the Sunday evening game on Tuesday's episode. So of course I will be recording on Monday for Tuesday, but there is just, it's a great time to be an Aggie baseball fan. And I think this team's going to go on a run. And I want to say it one more time. There is a legitimate chance that the Aggies could take on the Longhorns for a spot in Omaha. It's like the perfect ending to a movie. I mean, it's like, it is. That's what this is. I mean, just imagine how fun it'll be to go make fun of your friends that are Longhorn fans or family members that are Longhorn fans or whatever the situation is. It's a chance to go to Omaha. I mean, it's a big deal, and it says a lot about Coach Schloss and just this program as a whole. If you go to Omaha back-to-back years, it's a big deal. So the Aggies are in a great spot right now. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves. The job is not done yet. You still got a long way to go, but Texas A&M is playing their best baseball of the year at the right time, and it is a great day to be a Texas A&M Aggie fan. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. As always, I really appreciate you all stopping in and tuning in for today's episode. You all can follow me at Andrew Stefaniak. You all can follow the show at Locked On Aggies. I'm trying to be active on there and kind of, give everybody updates and comment some different things about the different sports and, say like, hey, this guy committed. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. So go follow the show. If you'd like, go follow me. And like I said, I just really do appreciate you all tuning in every day. It means a lot to me. And I love bringing you all the show every day. And hopefully we get a big Aggie baseball victory tonight, which it'll already happen when you all are watching. And have a great rest of your day. That's going to do it. We will see you tomorrow.